The Battle of Fallujah, also referred to as Third Battle of Fallujah or Fallujah Offensive, code-named Operation Breaking Terrorism by the Iraqi government, was a military operation against ISIL launched to capture the city of Fallujah and its suburbs, located about 69 kilometers west of the Iraqi capital Baghdad. The operation began on the 22nd of May 2016, 3 months after the Iraqi forces had started the total siege of Fallujah. On the 26th of June, Iraqi forces recaptured the city of Fallujah, before recapturing the remaining pocket of ISIL resistance in Fallujah's western outskirts 2 days later. Background: Fallujah was the first city seized by ISIL in Iraq in January 2014. Iraqi forces completely surrounded the western city after they recaptured Ramadi. In February 2016, ISIL militants prevented people from leaving the city. Fallujah is considered to be the second most important stronghold of ISIL in Iraq, after Mosul. Preparations. The Iraqi army published a statement on the 22nd of May 2016, and asked residents of the battlefield to leave the area through secured routes. The Iraqi army also said that local residents who could not move should raise white flags on top of the roofs. Shia Marja Ayatollah Sistani released instructions regarding respecting moral principles while advancing toward the Sunni city. The offensive, capturing the outskirts. Hyder al-Abadi ordered to begin the operation early on Monday, the 23rd of May. The Iraqi flag will be raised high over the land of Fallujah, said al-Abadi. On the 23rd of May 2016, it was reported the city of Al-Qama was recaptured by Shiite militias belonging to the Popular Mobilization Forces. Photos published by a PMF source show Iran's Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani and other PMF commanders discussing Fallujah battle strategies. On the first day of the offensive, 11 further villages and districts near Fallujah were recaptured, which forced ISIL fighters to retreat to the interior of the strategically important city. The offensive was slowed down due to the discovery of hundreds of improvised explosive devices in the outskirts of the city. The Popular Mobilization Forces declared on the 23rd of May that they had captured Al-Qama, about 16 kilometers northeast of Fallujah, which brings most of the territory east of Fallujah under Iraqi government control. They also announced the seizure of al-Harariyat, al-Shahabi and al-Dwaya and the killing of 40 ISIL militants during the military operation. The Iraqi government announced that pro-government fighters had captured the villages of Luhaib and al-Bukhanfar on the 24th of May. On the 23rd of May, 16 villages and districts on the eastern outskirts of Fallujah had been cleared by the Iraqi security forces. Included in this were the gains from a column in the northeast, which took the village of Sayyar days after the recapture of Al-Qama. These clashes resulted in the death of 40 ISIL militants. By the 25th of May, a total of 163 ISIL militants, 15 civilians and 35 Iraqi forces and militiamen were killed in clashes which gained the Iraqi army control over the remaining districts in the southeast, allowing them to create a corridor that cut the ISIL-controlled zone in two. During the day, it was reported an Iranian Basij member was killed in fighting near Fallujah. According to Qasm a member of the Defense Committee, the advancing forces are continuously gaining ground and nearing Fallujah's eastern gate. On the 27th of May, the US-led coalition conducted airstrikes in and around the city. U.S.-led coalition air and artillery strikes in and around Fallujah killed 70 ISIL fighters in Fallujah, including the militant's top commander in the area, Mar al-Bilawi. On the 28th of May, the Iraqi army declared the start of an operation to take Fallujah's city center. Iraq's counter-terrorism service was the first unit to break into the city. On the 29th of May, the Iraqi forces reportedly repelled an ISIL attack on al-Bushajal, killing dozens of militants. On the same day, Iraqi troops seized a key bridge between Zagreb and Fallujah, in order to facilitate the entry of the security forces from the international highway road into the center of Fallujah. Battle for Fallujah city. Early on the 30th of May, the Iraqi forces began entering the city of Fallujah from 3 directions and captured the village of Fallujah. However, the Iraqi forces faced very stiff resistance from the ISIL forces inside of the city, slowing their advance. By the 31st of May, only 3,000 civilians had managed to escape Fallujah. The Iraqi forces entered Fallujah city through the southern village of New Omiyah, entering the Shuhada neighborhood. On the way to the city center, Iraqi forces repelled a 4-hour attack by the Islamic State in the south of the city of Fallujah on Tuesday. The militants deployed snipers and 6 cars carrying explosives which were destroyed before reaching the troops. The Iraqi army's advance into Fallujah was stalled on Wednesday, the 1st of June, due to fierce resistance from Islamic State fighters and concerns over protecting tens of thousands of civilians still trapped inside the strategic city. Officials said civilians, including families, were moved to the city center and used as human shields by ISIL. With the operation in its second week, convoys of special forces could only inch forward on the dusty southern outskirts of the city as a handful of airstrikes sent up plumes of white smoke above clusters of low buildings on the fringes of the city's dense urban terrain. The Fars news agency reported that, due to the offensive, ISIL commanders had moved cash and jewelry worth $8 million from Fallujah to the more secure region of Mosul. On the 2nd of June, the commander of Fallujah operations, Lieutenant General Abdul Wahab al-Saadi, reported further advances of Iraqi forces and the killing of 50 ISIL members in the areas of al-Shuhada and al-Nu'aymiyah in southern Fallujah. In addition, 12 ISIL militants were killed and 4 vehicles and a mortar detachment destroyed by international coalition aviation in the area of Falafat west of Fallujah. On the 3rd of June, Iraqi forces moved into a southern neighborhood of Fallujah. The security forces have advanced from Naamiyah neighborhood to Shuhada. Lieutenant General Abdul Wahab al-Saadi, the operation's overall commander, told AFP. On the same day, Shiite militias uncovered a 6-kilometer-long tunnel in Fallujah linking the town to Fallujah, which had been used by ISIL militants to stall the offensive and evade airstrikes. On the 4th of June, Iraqi forces captured the town of Fallujah and stormed a neighborhood in southern Fallujah. A coalition airstrike killed all the ISIL militants trying to escape from Fallujah on a raft. According to reports, 70 ISIL terrorists were killed during the capture of Fallujah, including several foreign combatants. By the 5th of June, Iraqi forces had secured the southern edge of Fallujah, capturing the Naamiyah neighborhood. A leader of the Popular Mobilization Unit said that part of the western bank was the only area of Fallujah's outskirts that hadn't been secured by pro-government forces. Iraqi forces captured the neighborhood of al-Shuhada al-Thaniya on the 8th of June. 5 members of the Iraqi security services were injured during the fighting on that day. The move to capture the outlying area went quickly and forced Islamic State fighters to retreat into the heart of the city, the spokesman, Sabah al-Noman, told state television. Government forces were regrouping before beginning the next advance, he added. On the 10th of June, Iraq's elite counter-terrorism service reportedly moved within 3 kilometers of central Fallujah, and consolidated positions in the south of the city. ISIL attacked a military barracks to the east of Fallujah on the 11th of June. 50 members of the Iraqi military and allied Shiite paramilitaries and 12 members of ISIL were killed in the attack. Meanwhile, government forces reached Street 42 miles from Fallujah's city center. On the 12th of June, the Iraqi army said that it had secured the first safe exit route for civilians to leave the Islamic State's besieged stronghold of Fallujah, and the aid group Norwegian Refugee Council said thousands of people had already used it to flee on the first day it was open. The new exit route, known as Al-Salam Junction, was secured on Saturday, southwest of Fallujah. Joint Operation Command spokesman Brigadier Gen. Jafar Rasool told Reuters, "There were exit routes previously, but this is the first to be completely secured and it's relatively safe," said Rasool. About 4,000 people had fled the city over the past 24 hours through the Al-Salam Junction, said Carl Schembri, a spokesman in Iraq for the Norwegian Refugee Council, which has been assisting people who escaped the city. On the 13th of June, 546 militants who were fleeing the city disguised as civilians were arrested by the Iraqi military. Iraq's police chief said on the 14th of June that the forces cleared the Fallujah barrage of ISIL forces and hoisted the Iraqi flag on the crest of the dam. Brigadier Shakir Jordat said Iraqi forces are now in full control of the barrage, which is located south of Fallujah on the Euphrates River. The Iraqi forces also seized control over 3 villages of Za'anatha, Ziban and Atyar east of Fallujah. They also recaptured Abbas Jamil Bridge to facilitate the advance on the eastern neighborhoods of the city. On the 16th of June, the federal police announced it had retaken 25% of the city, capturing Al-Qadra, Al-Risala, Jubail, Fallujah Barrage, Nazim, Al-Shuhada, the sewage station, and a gas factory during the current phase to retake the city, during which 232 more ISIL militants were killed. On the same day, Lt. Gen. Raed Sheikh Jordat of Iraqi Federal Police said that ISIL militants had begun a mass escape from the city to areas of Hay al-Biza and Albu al-Wan west of Fallujah. He saw a total collapse among the ranks of ISIL. On the same day, Iraqi army started advancing from Falahat vicinity to those areas in the western axis of Fallujah, killing 20 ISIL members and opening 3 routes for the passage of tanks and armored vehicles. At the same time, 900 families were evacuated. The government headquarters of Fallujah was captured by Iraqi forces on the 17th of June, after they retook several of the city's neighborhoods in quick succession. During the battle, they faced little resistance from ISIL militants. The operations commander Lieutenant General Abdul Wahab al-Saadi claimed that Iraqi forces were in control of 70% of the city. In the evening of the 17th of June, the Iraqi army reported on state television that Fallujah had been fully liberated, though the commander of special forces reported that 80% of the city had been recaptured, with ISIL fighters concentrated in 4 northern districts. Fighting was also still going on at nearby Central Hospital. On Iraqi state television, Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi congratulated the troops on the victories. The Central Hospital was recaptured by Iraqi forces on the 18th of June. The following day, the UN stated that about 80,000 civilians had managed to flee the city in the previous 4 weeks, many after ISIL reversed its policy of preventing civilians from escaping in mid-June. From 18 to the 19th of June, it was also reported that the remaining ISIL forces in Fallujah were beginning to collapse. On the 19th of June, it was reported that 50 ISIL militants had been killed in coalition airstrikes and 15 others had been killed in clashes with Iraqi security forces. Also, more than 300 soldiers had died over the previous 2 days. Later on the 21st of June, a U.S. commander claimed that Iraqi forces had only cleared 30% of Fallujah of ISIL militants, with fighting still going on in other areas. Iraqi forces captured the police district of Shurta and the military district of Askari by the 21st of June. The capture of the districts left only the neighborhoods of Golan and Jughaifa as well as the outlying part of Fallujah on the western bank of the Euphrates River under ISIL control. Brig. Gen. Haider al-Obeidi told the Associated Press that 2,500 militants had been killed during the operation and the districts of Shurta and Jughaifa were captured by Iraqi forces by the 22nd of June. On the 23rd of June, al-Obeidi claimed that Iraqi forces were in control of 90% of the city. Clashes were still ongoing with ISIL as Iraqi forces made no significant advancement during the day. ISIL was in control of only the Golan neighborhood and a few scattered pockets. The last of the ISIL fighters were reported to be in Jolan and Al-Mu'allimin neighborhoods. The neighborhood of Al-Mu'allimin was fully captured and cleared of ISIL militants on the 25th of June. Iraqi forces also raised the Iraqi flag on a medical center they captured in the Jolan neighborhood. On the 26th of June, Iraqi forces recaptured the rest of Fallujah, with an Iraqi commander stating that the entire city was under Iraqi control and declared the operation was over. A Joint Operations Command spokesperson confirmed the full capture of the city and added that fighting was ongoing against pockets of ISIL resistance northwest of Fallujah. Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi visited Fallujah after its recapture. In a televised address, Abadi appeared outside Fallujah's main hospital waving an Iraqi flag and urged Iraqis to celebrate the day of Fallujah's recapture from ISIL. On Monday, the 27th of June, the Iraqi army advanced into Fallujah's western outskirts to eliminate Islamic State militants holed up in the farmland west of Fallujah, to keep them from launching counterattacks on the city a day after Baghdad declared victory over ISIL there. Backed by airstrikes from the U.S.-led coalition, Iraqi artillery bombarded targets, as troops closed in on up to 150 militants in areas along the southern bank of the Euphrates River. Colonel Ahmed al-Saidi, who participated in Monday's advance, said ground forces were moving cautiously to avoid triggering roadside bombs planted by ISIL. They have two options: either they surrender or they get killed. We want to prevent them catching the breath and attacking our forces with car bombs. Quote. Early on the 28th of June, the Iraqi government reported that 80% of areas of Al-Halabiza, Al-Bu-Alwan and Al-Buhairat had been recaptured. Later on the same day, the Iraqi army captured the Halabiza and Al-Bu-Alwan areas, fully recapturing Fallujah's western suburbs. Aftermath. On the 29th of June, Iraqi jets targeted a convoy of militants and the supporters fleeing from Fallujah's villages under cover of a dust storm. The Iraqi Air Force claimed that about 426 vehicles carrying up to 2,000 militants were hit in the airstrikes. Later that day, the Air Force conducted airstrikes against ISIL positions on the outskirts of Fallujah, resulting in the death of at least 250 militants and destroying 40 vehicles. Overall, 348 militants were killed and more than 200 vehicles destroyed throughout the day. He added that 450 vehicles belonging to the extremists were also destroyed in the process. Separately, Qamis al-Isawi, Alawa al-Amara al-Samur tribal leader, said his fighters and security forces had destroyed an ISIL base on the fringes of Amara Fallujah, noting that 3 tribesmen had been killed and 6 others injured during the clashes with ISIL militants. The Federal Police Command announced on Saturday dismantling a large laboratory for booby-trapped vehicles and manufacturing of explosives in central Fallujah. The laboratory contained tons of explosives, it added. The Federal Police Chief Lieutenant General Raed Sheikh Jordat said, "Today the security forces discovered a large laboratory for booby-trapped vehicles and explosives manufacturing at ISIL in central Fallujah, during the search operations carried out in the liberated areas." Quote, "The booby-trapping laboratory that was found in ISIL was completely dismantled while tons of explosives and detonators were found inside it." Quote, Jordat added. Anbar Provincial Council informed that the security forces secured the old road that links Ramadi with Fallujah and this will be used for the movement of military convoys only. Member of the Security Committee in Anbar Provincial Council Raji Barakat al-Isawi said, "The security forces secured the old road linking Ramadi and Fallujah. The road was secured after liberating some areas in Khalidiyah from ISIS control." Isawi added, "The security forces managed to liberate the international highway 3 days ago and managed to open the old road that extends to 44 kilometers towards the new bridge of Fallujah."